I lived in China for 7 years. Here's what I noticed when I came back to South Africa. 7 years ago, I packed my bags and moved from South Africa to China. At the time, I thought it would be an incredible adventure and a chance to experience a completely different part of the world. What I didn't expect was that I would end up spending 7 years there. Over those years, China became more than just a place I worked. It became my home. I built lifelong friendships, learned some of the language, traveled across the country, and experienced one of the fastest changing societies in the world. A month ago, I returned to South Africa. Since then, almost everyone has asked me the same question. So, what's it like being back? The truth is, it's not an easy question to answer. Some things reminded me of why I love South Africa. Other things were difficult to ignore. And living in China for 7 years changed the way I see both countries. So today, I simply want to share my observations. Not to say one country is better than the other, but to explain how living in two very different places has changed my perspective. When I first moved to China, I expected culture shock. Different language, different food, different traditions, a completely different way of doing almost everything. Like many people, I had preconceived ideas about what China would be like. Some turned out to be true. Many were completely wrong. Over time, I stopped seeing China as just a foreign country and started appreciating it for what it is. A complex, fascinating place with incredible strengths and its own unique challenges. Living there taught me lessons I never expected to learn. Coming back to South Africa was emotional. Seeing my family again, hearing familiar accents, driving on the roads I grew up using, seeing the incredible, open landscapes that South Africa is famous for. There were moments where I realized just how much I'd missed home, but there were also moments where I realized just how much I had changed. After 7 years abroad, you don't return as the same person who left. One of the first things that stood out to me was just how friendly South Africans are. People are willing to stop and have a conversation. There's a warmth here that's difficult to describe. People greet strangers. Neighbors talk to one another. There's a genuine sense of community that I had forgotten about. Another thing that struck me was just how unbelievably beautiful South Africa is. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we have. The open spaces, the wildlife, the sunsets, the mountains, the incredible variety of landscapes. After spending years in one of the world's largest countries, coming home reminded me that South Africa is one of the most naturally beautiful places on earth. One of the biggest adjustments has been becoming aware of personal safety again, locking doors, watching where you park, being aware of your surroundings. After living in an environment where I rarely thought about these things, it was an adjustment. It's not about fear, it's simply something that becomes part of daily life again. At the same time, there are many things I miss about China. Digital payments everywhere, excellent public transport, fast delivery services, infrastructure that makes everyday life convenient. Living there makes you appreciate how much technology can simplify daily life. Another thing that really stood out to me was just how much the cost of living had changed since I left South Africa in 2019. Petrol has increased by more than 50%, and electricity prices have risen by around 70% over the same period. When you live somewhere, those increases happen gradually, but when you've been away for 7 years, you notice them almost immediately. Despite our challenges, I don't believe that South Africa lacks talent. We have brilliant entrepreneurs, hardworking people, amazing farmers, world-class professionals, and incredible natural resources. Sometimes I wonder what this country could become if those strengths were combined with better leadership, stronger institutions, and long-term planning. One of the biggest lessons China taught me is that countries can change incredibly quickly. Things that seem impossible today can become normal within a decade. Infrastructure, technology, innovation, long-term thinking. That doesn't mean South Africa should copy China. Every country has its own history and its own path. But I do think there's value in asking what we can learn from countries that have solved problems that we still struggle with. Likewise, there are things that South Africa has that many countries would love to have. There's something both countries can learn from each other. That's really why I'm starting this channel. This channel isn't about one country being better than another. It's about asking questions, learning different perspectives, speaking to interesting people, and exploring business, leadership, politics, technology, and the future of South Africa and the world. Sometimes I'll share my own experiences. Sometimes I'll interview people who know far more than I do. My goal isn't to convince you what to think. It's to start interesting conversations. If you've lived overseas, I'd love to know what surprised you most when you came back home. And if you've never left South Africa, what do you think our country can learn from the rest of the world? Leave your thoughts in the comments. If that sounds interesting, consider subscribing because this is just the beginning. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.